Ver had one of those mornings where you wake up and just feel heavy, not sad, not exactly anxious. Just a quiet weight pressing on your chest as you stare at the ceiling wondering, is this really it? You're not crying, not panicking, but everything feels off, hollow. Like you're here but not really here. Like there's a sheet of glass between you and the rest of the world. You see it moving, spinning, rushing around you, but you can't quite reach it. Maybe someone told you it's depression. Maybe you've thought the same. But what if it's not? What if you're not broken? What if what you're experiencing isn't a sickness, but a signal? A signal that you're seeing reality exactly as it is. No filters, no distractions. Just the raw, unfiltered madness of it all. And it's driving you a little crazy, not because something is wrong with you, but because you're finally waking up. Take a moment. Look around. Really look. Scroll through your feed. What do you see? People posting perfect pictures of lives they don't actually enjoy. Smiles stretched across filtered faces. Friendships measured in likes. Relationships held together by shallow compliments and heart emojis. Endless scrolling. Endlessly numb. Work. You're expected to trade hours of your life for a paycheck that barely covers rent in a place you don't even feel at home. You show up, smile, nod, do your tasks, and quietly die a little more inside every day. Maybe, just maybe, your soul isn't malfunctioning. Maybe it's screaming, begging you to pay attention, to stop pretending this is okay. I knew someone like that once. His name was Mike. From the outside, the guy had it all. Stable job, long-term relationship, friends who called him every weekend. On paper, everything checked out, but I'll never forget what he told me one night. It feels like I'm floating through someone else's life, like I'm trapped in a movie where I know the lines, but they don't feel like mine. Every laugh around me sounds fake. Every conversation feels empty. I wake up and it's just another rerun. He went to therapy. The first thing they said sounds like depression, and maybe it was technically. But the more he peeled back the layers, the more it became clear he wasn't shutting down. He was tuning in. He wasn't malfunctioning. He was finally functioning clearly enough to realize that everything around him was insane, and no one else seemed to notice. That's when it hit him. Maybe the real issue wasn't him. Maybe it was that he had stopped being numb. He was finally seeing the strings, the traps, the lies. And yeah, that made him feel empty at first. But not the kind of empty that means broken. The kind that means there's room now. Room for something real. Maybe that's where you are too. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're just no longer able to ignore the noise. You can't pretend the world makes sense anymore. You can't play along like you used to. And that disconnection you're feeling, it's not a flaw. It's the beginning. The beginning of something honest. See, here's the thing. No one wants to say out loud the moment you start noticing how artificial everything feels, how scripted most people are, how fake the enthusiasm sounds for things that don't matter. Society labels you as defective, like something's wrong with you for not wanting to play pretend anymore. But maybe that's your strength. Maybe the ache in your chest, the numbness in your smile, the quiet voice in your head whispering, "This isn't it." Maybe that's your intuition waking up. Maybe it's the only sane reaction to an insane world. Because think about it. Every single day, millions of people wake up and swipe their alarms, gulp down coffee, just to get moving, race to jobs they hate, and smile through gritted teeth at coworkers they barely like. Then they scroll Instagram at lunch, comparing their unfiltered reality to someone else's staged fantasy. They call that normal. They call that life. But if that's normal, why does it feel so wrong? If that's what happiness is supposed to look like, why does it leave us so drained, so empty, so lost? The truth is, this society isn't built for people who ask questions like that. It thrives on people who accept just enough pain to stay quiet, just enough distraction to stay asleep, just enough comfort to avoid questioning the system. People who never look too closely, who never speak too loudly, who never notice the bars of their cage. And now you're starting to see the cage. That ache you feel, it's the weight of it pressing against your ribs. That disconnection, it's the crack in the glass you've been staring through. You're beginning to feel the lie in your bones. When Mike went back to his therapist and said, "I just can't find joy in the things I used to," they told him to adjust his meds, try a hobby, sleep more. But maybe he didn't need more sleep. Maybe he'd just finally woken up. Maybe he was finally seeing the empty promises society dangles in front of us, like carrots do, this, get that, and someday you'll be fulfilled. It's a lie. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a quote by Krishnamurti that says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Let that land for a second. Think about it. Maybe you're not sick at all. Maybe your sadness isn't dysfunction. Maybe your anxiety isn't a disorder. Maybe you're just not willing to adjust to the madness anymore. Maybe you're finally ready to see. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's disorienting. It can even be terrifying. But it's also the start of something beautiful, because real awakening. It's not all bliss and clarity and pretty sunsets. It's messy. It's raw. It tears through the illusions you spent your whole life building. It burns the script you were handed. And at first, it leaves you standing there, not knowing what's next. But it's also real, and real is rare. Real is sacred. You don't need to fake it anymore. You don't need to force yourself into routines that suck your soul dry. You don't need to pretend you're okay with conversations that go nowhere, with jobs that drain you, with relationships that feel like performance art. You're allowed to feel disconnected from all of that. You're allowed to want more, even if you can't quite name what that more is yet. Because deep down, you already know what you're searching for. It's not in the next self-help book or the next promotion or the next relationship. It's in the quiet space where you finally stop chasing and start listening. That quiet space, the one you've been avoiding with noise, with distractions, with the endless to-do lists and endless scrolling. It's where the truth has been waiting all along. But when you first enter it, it can feel like falling, like you've lost your footing. Your old motivations stop working. Your usual comforts don't comfort anymore. The shows you once watched to relax now feel hollow. The conversations that once passed the time now feel unbearable. This is the unraveling. It's not the end. It's the beginning of becoming. You might find yourself sitting in a room full of people smiling at jokes, nodding at opinions, pretending to care. But inside, you're miles away. Not because you're better, not because you're judgmental, but because something inside of you refuses to play along anymore. You can't unknow what you now know. You can't go back to small talk after glimpsing something so much deeper. And the truth is, this phase, it's lonely. Not in the way you might think. Not the kind of lonely where no one's around. But the kind where you feel unseen even in a crowd. Where you begin to sense just how many of your relationships were built on shared illusions instead of shared truths. You're not crazy, you're just awake, and waking up isn't glamorous. It's not a montage set to inspiring music. It's awkward, it's disorienting. It's dinner parties where you fake a laugh but your soul aches to scream. It's weekends that used to feel fun but now feel like obligations. It's sitting with someone you used to love and wondering if they ever really saw you, or if they only ever loved the mask you wore, the mask you didn't even know you were wearing until now. That's the hard part. When you first start shedding the layers of performance, of people-pleasing, of pretending, you start wondering, well then, who even am I? It's terrifying, but it's also honest. Because up until now, your identity may have been stitched together by external expectations. You were who your parents wanted you to be, who your friends needed you to be, who your teachers, your boss, your partner expected you to be. You performed your role so well, you even forgot it was a role. But now the performance is crumbling. The lines no longer fit. The costume itches, and the stage feels suffocating. So here you are backstage, stripped of the applause, staring into the mirror without makeup, without scripts, without direction. And this is the real work. The work no one claps for. The work that doesn't come with affirmation or quick results. The work of asking yourself gently but firmly, what do I actually believe? What do I actually feel? What do I actually want? And at first, you might not know. Because for years, maybe decades, you've been making decisions based on survival, based on approval, based on the path of least resistance. And now you're trying to tap into a voice that's been whispering under all the noise. A voice you've trained yourself not to hear, but that voice, your voice, is still there. At first, it comes as a whisper, a nudge, a gut feeling. You may not have language for it yet, but you'll feel it in your body, in the heaviness of a yes that should have been a no, in the tightness of your chest during forced laughter, in the sense of relief you feel when you cancel a plan that never felt aligned in the first place. This is what awakening sounds like, feels like. It's not always loud. It's often subtle, slow, and strangely tender. And with it comes grief. No one talks about that part. About the deep mourning that surfaces as you let go not just of people, places, and paths, but of entire identities. Versions of yourself you built just to be safe. Personas you wore like armor. Dreams you inherited rather than chose. Grief for the energy you spent chasing validation. For the years you lost trying to fit. For the moments you silenced yourself to belong. But here, this grief is not a setback. It's a sacred step. Because before you can build something real, you must clear the ground. And this grief is the clearing, the emptying, the sacred undoing that makes room for your actual life to begin. And slowly things shift. You stop reaching for the old comforts that numbed you. You stop apologizing for your silence. You start noticing what lights you up, not what impresses others. Maybe you begin journaling not to perform wellness, but to process truth. Maybe you walk alone not to escape people, but to reconnect with your center. Maybe you find yourself staring at the sky not because you're lost, but because something inside you is finally still enough to notice its vastness. And then unexpectedly you start finding people, not the kind who need you to shrink, not the kind who panic when you stop performing, but the kind who meet you in your mess, who aren't afraid of your silence, who don't need you to explain your sadness, who resonate with your becoming even if they don't fully understand it. These are your people, not perfect, not always obvious, but real. They don't need you to be fixed. They honor your unfolding. They hold space without rushing your answers. And in their presence, you begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, you're not broken. You're blooming. The conversations feel different. Less about achievements, more about essence. You talk about what moves you, what scares you, what you're learning to release. And suddenly the loneliness that once consumed you becomes a kind of sacred solitude, a rich soil where authenticity can grow. And here's where the shift begins. You stop trying to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop looking for permission to be real. You realize your truth is enough, and not everyone needs to get it. That's the freedom, the power, the peace. Because the moment you stop needing to be understood by everyone is the moment you finally begin to understand yourself. Your values get clearer. Not because someone defined them for you, but because you began living them. Your boundaries strengthen, not as walls, but as invitations for healthier, more honest connections. And you stop trying to outrun discomfort. You let it sit with you. You learn from it. You trust that every ache has something to teach you about your capacity, your longing, your truth. This is what individuation looks like. Carl Jung called it the privilege of a lifetime becoming who you truly are. Not who the world told you to be, not who survival required you to be, but the real you, the deep-rooted, unshakable you. And that process, it's not linear, it's not neat, but it's real. And real is what you came here for. So if you feel lost right now, good. That means you stopped pretending to be found. That means you're no longer satisfied with surface-level answers and hollow routines. That means something inside you is alive and asking for more. More depth, more truth, more meaning. And you're allowed to want it, to seek it, to claim it. Not because someone else says it's time, but because you finally decided to stop settling. You don't need to be perfect to wake up. You don't need to have all the answers to begin the journey. You just need to be willing to pause, to question, to listen. Because beneath all the noise, your real life is waiting. You're here now, standing on the edge of something invisible. There's no fanfare, no welcome sign, just a quiet, steady pull towards something you can't quite name, but feel in your bones. It's not a new destination, it's a homecoming, but not to a place, to yourself. And this chapter, the one you're writing right now, it's not about seeking, it's about embodying. Not about proving your worth, but remembering it. Not about fixing what's broken, but honoring what's waking up. Because the truth is, healing isn't about returning to who you were before the wound. It's about becoming someone new because of it. Someone softer but stronger, clearer but kinder, Someone who no longer needs to be everything for everyone because you've finally become everything to yourself. That's the frequency. Not hustle, not force, but alignment. It's the quiet power of living in coherence. When your thoughts, your choices, and your energy begin to match what you actually value. When you no longer say yes to things that don't honor your spirit. When you stop leaking your energy, trying to fit in, and start using it to root deeper into who you actually are. This isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's a daily remembering. Each morning you'll still wake up with the world rushing in notifications, headlines, voices demanding your attention. But now you'll notice the pause before the noise. You'll feel the breath before the reaction. You'll become the observer before becoming the actor. And in that moment of awareness, you'll have a choice: to fall into the old current, or to step into the frequency of your becoming. Maybe you'll start the day with stillness, or gratitude, or simply a deep breath with your hand on your heart. Maybe you'll ask, not what do I need to accomplish today, but who do I want to be today? Calm, grounded, open, free. And that choice will ripple. It will change the way you speak, the way you respond, the way you eat, move, rest, the way you look at strangers, the way you hold space for your own inner world. Because this frequency isn't about appearances. It's not about being good or spiritual or successful by someone else's definition. It's about honesty, integrity, stillness, alignment. You'll start to notice when your body tightens around a lie, when your spirit dims in a room not meant for you, when your energy contracts around something that once thrilled you but no longer does. And instead of judging it, you'll listen. You'll let it guide you, not to escape, but to evolve. Because that's the real path forward, not control, but coherence. Not perfection, but presence. And this too becomes a practice. At night, when the world softens, you'll begin to ask new questions. Not, did I do enough, but did I honor myself today? Not, did I get ahead, but did I stay true? And slowly these reflections become rituals. You begin to live with more intentionality. You stop running. You stop rushing. You start responding instead of reacting. You begin to see life not as something happening to you, but something responding to you. The world, you realize, isn't resisting you. It's reflecting you. The deeper you align, the more reality bends in your favor. Not because you're manipulating it, but because you're finally vibrating in harmony with what you actually desire. You become the kind of person your dreams are looking for. And the shifts begin. A conversation that opens a door. A coincidence too precise to ignore. A delayed plan that ends up protecting you. A silent knowing that whispers, this is the way. And this time you're not surprised. You're ready. Because you've spent enough time tuning your energy, building your awareness, learning to recognize resonance. You no longer chase. You attract not because you've mastered some secret, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself. You've become a safe place for your own truth. And the world, the people, the opportunities, they start meeting you there. But even now, even here, there will be moments of doubt, of contraction, of questioning. And that's okay. You're not failing when you wobble. You're just being reminded to return, to breathe, to realign. You'll remember the work was never about being in control. It was about becoming conscious. The goal was never to manifest things. It was to remember who you are when you stop performing, and the things they come. Not always when or how you expect, but they come quietly, naturally, often disguised as something ordinary. But this time you'll see them for what they are: mirrors of your internal shift. You'll begin to trust the quiet path, the long game, the inner work that doesn't demand applause, because you'll have tasted something more fulfilling than success. Peace. And peace, once known, becomes non-negotiable. You won't stay in places that cost you that peace. You won't maintain relationships that require self-abandonment. You won't chase goals that drain more than they give. Not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. And that awakening is sacred. It will require letting go not just of what no longer fits, but of the parts of you that believed you had to settle. The part that thought you had to earn love. The part that feared rejection more than regret. You'll begin to forgive yourself for all the ways you once coped, for the times you didn't know better, for the years you played a role just to feel safe, for the noise you chose over stillness because silence felt too loud. And in that forgiveness, you'll find freedom, not because you fixed everything, but because you've stopped fighting yourself. You'll begin to understand that life is not something you chase. It's something you align with, moment by moment, breath by breath. And the more you align, the less you need to explain, to prove, to convince, because your energy will speak first. And those meant for you, they'll feel it. They'll find you. They already are. So here you are, not at the end, but at the threshold. And the question is no longer, can I manifest what I want? It's, am I willing to become who I truly am? Because once you do, everything changes. Not all at once, not always visibly, but deeply, undeniably, beautifully. And there's no finish line, no final achievement, only deeper coherence, only softer becoming, only the quiet miracle of living in tune with your own soul. This is the work. This is the invitation. This is the remembering. And if it's resonating in you, if something inside you is whispering, yes, this is it, then don't let it end here. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to take the next honest step. And if this path, this truth, this rhythm feels like home, stay close. Leave a comment. Tell me where you're at in this process. You're not alone. Like the video so others can find it when they need it most. Subscribe if you're done performing and ready to start embodying. We're building something here, quietly, together. Something that starts in you, but echoes far beyond.